The game never stops, and neither do we. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Espresso on the SDH Network, brought to you by Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. I'm Jason Longshore, and it's a big week across the game. Chicago has ended years of playoff pain. Liverpool, they found their rhythm again in Europe, and Emma Hayes begins the next chapter for the U.S. women's national team tonight. We'll hit MLS, Champions League, Libertadores semifinals, a few more big stories shaping the world's game, all in one shot of Morning Espresso to start your day. Let's start with the night that brought one of MLS's not quite OGs. I mean, they were 1998 versus 1996, but one of the early powers in the league back into the spotlight. The Chicago Fire's wild card win over Orlando City wasn't just a playoff win, it was a full circle moment. Their first playoff game since 2017, their first playoff goal since 2012, and their first playoff win since 2009. Brian Gutierrez, a homegrown Chicagoan, he opened the scoring early in the second half. A kid who was only 6 years old the last time the Fire won a postseason game. Hugo Kuipers took over with 2 goals, sealing a 3-1 win that felt like the old Chicago Fire. Bold, aggressive, confident under new head coach Greg Berhalter. Orlando also looked very poor. They didn't defend well, and they didn't really create anything, and their season went into the tank under Oscar Pareja, and it's very concerning how bad they were down the stretch. Chicago will now face the Supporter Shield winners Philadelphia Union in the round 1 best-of-3 series starting on Sunday. It's a matchup that could set the tone for this postseason. Berhalter's new look Fire trying to maybe out Philadelphia in some ways. The Union have got plenty of veterans. They've made deep playoff runs before. It is their first time being led by Bradley Carnell, so I'm intrigued by Chicago and Philly. Out west, the Portland Timbers ended their own streak of frustration. Felipe Mora scored twice, snapping a 23-game scoreless run for him. 2-0 win for the Timbers gives them their first playoff victory since 2021. The Timbers now move on to face San Diego in round 1. RSL did about everything they could this season. They battled. They made the Timbers work for it. But this is a team that, talent-wise, was not at the same level as the other playoff teams in the Western Conference, and I think it showed as this one went on. I'll be curious to see what next season looks like for Pablo Mastroeni and RSL. Now, Portland's got to go to San Diego in Game 1 in Round 1. Speaking of San Diego, there's a little bit of drama behind the scenes for the Western Conference champions. Tom Bogert at The Athletic had some of the details. Chucky Lozano, he could miss the playoffs due to an internal issue following a locker room altercation earlier this month. The club's asking him to prove his commitment before being brought back into the squad. It's a huge story to watch for heading into the weekend. He was not part of the decision day match between these two teams, and I don't think it was a physical altercation. I think it was frustration over being substituted, and that wasn't received very well. Very curious to see how San Diego handles a potential distraction for Mikey Veras. San Diego's also in talks to make U.S. international Luca De La Torre his move from Celta Vigo permanent. Trying to get that done, also trying to get his salary cap number down a little bit to help with that. 19-year-old fullback Luca Bombino, he's going to stay after a breakout season on loan from LAFC. Some other news from around the league that Tom Bogert dropped yesterday on us at The Athletic. Josh Wolf has interviewed for the New England Revolution's head coaching vacancy. Minnesota United trying to get a long-term deal done with goalkeeper Dane St. Clair, and he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. Nashville SC, they've made an offer for Ghanaian defender Maxwell Woledzi. We'll see if they can get that one done ahead of next season. Hot Stove League in Major League Soccer, it is heating up fast. Next up, another storyline for MLS as they move into the playoffs. Attendance dipped very slightly this season, averaged 21,988 fans per match, down 5% from last year's all-time record average attendance. Look, there's a few factors at play. A crowded summer calendar with the Club World Cup, with the Premier League Summer Series, with the Gold Cup. You had fewer matches moved to large venues for Inter Miami matches, Lionel Messi's appearances. FC Dallas's renovation reduced capacity in Frisco by 42%. Still, MLS crossed the 11 million mark in total attendance for the second straight year. It was the second highest overall attendance. Camilo Durana, the league's executive vice president, he said it best: with the volume of soccer in this country this year, maintaining this pace shows the energy and momentum we have heading into a really important part of our history. The numbers on the viewing side were up this year, 3.7 million gross live match viewers per week across streaming and linear platforms, a 29% increase over 2024. That's a big deal. 5%, I don't think there would be much celebration of a 5% increase, so a 5% decrease should be received the same way. I am sure that it won't be from certain people out there who have their agendas that will be trumpeting those agendas. I think we get a little too hung up on granular attendance changes game to game, season to season in soccer in this country. We don't do that in the same way in our other sports. I know attendance has been a bellwether for soccer in the United States for so long. I think we've got to move past it a little bit and start to look at things like that big increase on the viewership, the big increases on the social platforms, those sorts of things. I think old school metrics are not always the best determination of overall health. MLS is in a really good spot. 5% decrease in attendance year to year is not very large when you really get into the grand scheme of things. Let's move on. Let's go to Europe. Match day 3 of the Champions League delivered a reminder of just how quickly things can change. After 30 minutes in Frankfurt, Liverpool looked like a team on the ropes. They were trailing 1-0. Mo Salah was on the bench. Arne Slot's decision to switch to a 4-4-2 was being questioned. They were looking at losing their 5th straight match. I mean, it was crazy where Liverpool has fallen to. But then you got 9 of the most electric minutes of Liverpool's season. Hugo Ekitike scored off of a brilliant through ball from Robertson. Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate scored back-to-back headers off corners. By the break, it was 3-1. By full-time, it was 5-1. Cody Gakpo and Dominic Szoboszlai added to what turned into a rout. Slot tore up the usual script, and he got a defining win for this season. It's the kind that can reset a season because Liverpool hasn't looked this good all year. Real Madrid, they stayed perfect. 1-0 win over Juventus. Jude Bellingham's first goal of the year. Chelsea's teenage phenom, Estevao, he's just 18 years old. He scored a penalty to become the club's youngest ever scorer in the Champions League. Tottenham Hotspur under Thomas Frank drew scoreless with Monaco. Huge string of goalkeeper saves from Guglielmo Vicario, the Italian goalkeeper for Spurs. According to Opta's model, after match day 3, Arsenal are now 21% favorites to win the Champions League, followed by PSG at 15%, Manchester City at 12%, Liverpool at 11%. It's wide open at the top. Let's bounce over to, we're going to stay in Europe, but we're going to bounce maybe just a little bit down to look towards Saudi Arabia, because one of the most interesting off-the-field stories this week, Dazn is reportedly preparing to bid for global broadcasting rights to the Champions League from 2027 to 2031. It's the first time UEFA has offered a global rights package. Saudi-backed Surge Sports, which now owns 10% of Dazn, that's fueling the push. If successful, Dazn could stream one marquee Champions League game worldwide each week, a massive shift in how football is distributed and consumed. Dazn says they want to become the Spotify of sport. This would be a huge step in that direction. They did really well with the FIFA Club World Cup last summer and had some huge inroads in different markets in the world. Brazil, Italy, France, Belgium did really, really well. Didn't do as well in the UK. Numbers in the US, I think, were very good. It's intriguing. It's very intriguing to see where this goes with Dazn trying to chase this, and Champions League could be their ticket to doing it. Let's go down south, South America. They had their own fireworks overnight. At the Maracanã, Flamengo edged Racing Club in 1-0 in the first leg of their Copa Libertadores semifinal. Jorge Carrascal, the Colombian international, scored the winner in the 88th minute, keeping Flamengo's quest alive for their first title since 2022. Earlier, Racing thought they had the go-ahead goal through our old friend Santiago Sosa, but it was ruled out for a foul in his leap. He went up and won a header, called for a foul. It's a questionable call. It reminded me a little bit of the goal that he scored that was called back in Columbus a few years ago. He then was wrecked by his own teammate, Marcos Rojo, very late in the match in stoppage time. He is going to miss next week's second leg due to that collision and due to a facial fracture that he suffered in it. Could possibly have concussion issues as well. I have not seen anything specifically about it. He looked a little wobbly afterwards, busted open in the mouth as well. Hate to see that for Santi, who has been one of Racing's best players this season and in this run. Second leg heads to Buenos Aires next week. It should be a thrilling match, just like tonight's first leg should be in Quito, in Ecuador. LDU Quito face Palmeiras. Liga de Quito trying to knock out a third Brazilian club in this year's tournament after eliminating Botafogo and Sao Paulo. If you haven't watched a whole lot of Copa Libertadores, I highly recommend it. The drama is off the charts. The intensity is off the charts. The atmosphere, love it. Palmeiras has to go to Ecuador and deal with not just a raucous crowd, not just a very good team, but also altitude tonight. You can watch that on BN Sport, and you can watch it on Fanatis if you don't have BN Sport on your existing providers. You can go to fntz.co/soccer down here and subscribe, and also help SDH grow a little bit by your subscription. So if you are so inclined, we would definitely recommend it. Let's go to the next bit of news in today's Morning Espresso. The U.S. women's national team back on the field tonight, hosting Portugal. Roster looks a little bit different from last summer in Paris, where they won the gold medal. 13 of the 25 players in camp have made their debuts since the Olympics. Emma Hayes promised a rebuild when she took over. She's delivering that, and she's rebuilding along the way. She had the success last summer, but she's also broadening the player pool right now. Alex Morgan will be honored before the match in Chester, Pennsylvania tonight, where she scored her first international goal back in 2010. Perfect farewell moment as the next generation continues to step forward. Keep an eye on goalkeeper Fallon Tullis-Joyce. She's now the number one at Manchester United, making her case to be the dedicated number one for the U.S. after Alyssa Nair's retirement from the national team. Hayes is continuing to integrate young talent like Claire Hutton, Jordan Bugg, alongside veterans like Loa Labonta, who have earned their way into the picture here. Hayes said this week, it's not just about replacing players, it's about evolving how we play, how we think, and how we connect. This new era for the U.S. women's national team really coming together about a year away from qualification for the 2027 Women's World Cup. Let's wrap things up going around the world. Some quick hits from all over the planet. Let's go to Spain. El Clásico headlining the weekend as Real Madrid and Barcelona will match up. Rafinha is back in training for Barca, although Frenkie de Jong's status remains uncertain. Left training yesterday due to illness. Everybody is freaking out about this one. It's Sunday at 11:15. Cannot wait for this one. You'll be able to watch it at the Brewhouse Cafe with an around-the-corner lager in your hand if you are so inclined. In Italy, Milan announced a new partnership with Coca-Cola and with Powerade. They're also adding a DJ booth at the San Siro. Football and culture mixing like you would expect in Italia. Zimbabwe, they fired head coach Michael Neese just 2 months before AFCON after a very disappointing run in World Cup qualifying. Thailand, they hired Anthony Hudson, you might remember, with the Colorado Rapids, with U.S. youth national teams, with New Zealand. He is the new national team manager of Thailand. And in the Champions League in Africa, Nigeria's Remo Stars, that was part of our picks of the week last week in soccer over there on Monday night. They are still waiting on some visas for their trip to South Africa, where they have to try to overturn a 5-1 deficit going into the second leg against the Mamelodi Sundowns. We'll see if they make it, and we'll see if they have enough players to really challenge the really top-notch Mamelodi Sundowns. A really good team that you got a chance to see in the Club World Cup over the summer. Plenty happening everywhere this week. This weekend's absolutely loaded. I already mentioned it. El Clasico Sunday morning at 11:15. You've got MLS Round 1 playoffs beginning on Friday night with Miami hosting Nashville. You've got Chicago and Philly. You've got Portland and San Diego. You've got Hell is Real with Cincinnati and Columbus. Some really good matchups around the league. You got Copa Libertadores continuing on after the first legs of the semifinals tonight. You've got domestic play in Brazil. You've got domestic play in Argentina. You've got big games in London, Paris, Rome, Munich, all over. And if you want to watch any of that, you know where to be. The Brewhouse Cafe, Atlanta's home for the global game. You can have an around-the-corner lager from Nofo Brewing in hand. Big screens, big matches, big energy. No matter where the game is played, it's always around the corner. That's your Morning Espresso for today, brought to you by Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. You can catch every episode of the Morning Espresso, of SDH AM, of all of our other regular content, wherever you get your podcast, on Spreaker, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube. For all the latest, follow us across social media at Soccer Down Here. I'm Jason Longshore. Thank you for starting your day with us. The game never stops. Neither do we. See you tomorrow.